Ta-da. Hello, everyone. This is Mitch Gazowski. This is open source Web3 Design live stream number 4, where we talk about all things Web3 design in the blockchain space. To get us started off, just want to have a quick talk about quick intro, 30-second intro, telling who you are and what you're about. I'll start it off. My name is Mitch. I'm with the ETH Prize Initiative. I like to talk about pain points in the Ethereum ecosystem and to bounty projects and teams to address those. I'll hand it off to Beltran for a quick intro.
Hi, I'm Beltran. I am the ENS user experience designer, and I wrote the Web3 design principles, and I want to talk more design in this space. So let's talk about that. I hand it to Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm working on onboarding designers and supporting current designers in this space. I'm going to hand it off to Peter.
Hey guys, I'm helping a team build a key management protocol, but I'm really exploring how we can onboard new designers into the space. I'll give it to Johnny.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny. I'm at Consensus. Specifically, I'm the product design lead at Uport, an identity and our solution on Ethereum for identity. And that's a lot of what I focus on is design issues around identity, key management, privacy, transparency, things like that. Also interested in, cultivating a larger presence of design in the development of all of these solutions. By doing things at DevCon and running events and participating in these things. So I'd like to get as many of us involved as possible. I'll hand it off to Elisa.
Hey, I'm Elisa March. I'm product lead at Gitcoin, which is a bounties-based collaboration platform. I am here just to, check out this meetup and also, learn a little bit about some of the topics that are going to be shared today. I nominate Zach.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zach, product design at Consensus, working on the design system effort. And I will pass it to my friend Nue.
Hey! Hi, everybody. This is my first time. I am with Consensus. I work on Civil, which is a decentralized marketplace for journalism. And I'm the lead product designer there. Currently, I am mostly focused on designing our civil registry, which is based on this token curated registry model, and as well as helping the design team. We have two people now, and besides me, to sort of branch out and be an octopus, having our tentacles across the entire civil organization. So that is part of my job. Besides diving deep into the token curated registry pool. So that's me. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm really excited to learn from all of you because this is my first time and I've been very, very busy. And thank you to Amy for a nudge to getting me on board here. So I'm very excited to meet all of you. And I'm going to hand this off to Benjamin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Benjamin. I am with the Parisian hub of Consensus since a month now. And I'm a digital designer, interaction, UX, UI designer. And I joined Solutions for Consensus at Paris. And it's my first time also with you here. And I just discovered the group Web3Design, open source Web3Design last week. Thanks to from the invitation of Laura Gion, and that's it. I will give the speech to Caroline.
Hello, my name is Caroline Ford. I am also with Consensus. I'm a product designer. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm on the product design team, or product, I am on the design systems team with Zach. And prior to that, I was the lead designer for the Kaleido Spoke project. So I helped them develop their product through their beta launch. And since then, I moved to design systems.
Awesome. I think that's it. Or is there anybody else? Cool. Well, then the first topic on the agenda was Nue very graciously offered to do a civil registry presentation. So I'll do a very low tech timer of I think 10 minutes for a demo and 10 minutes for Q&A, if that's good with everybody. And Nue, the floor is yours.
Oh man, okay, 1 second. Let me open this and then I will share my screen. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, great. Actually, I'm gonna view the public link because I can see stuff there better. Okay. I forgot that I closed this because this is the same set of prototypes that I used to user test with. So then afterwards, I locked it so that people wouldn't be able to see it. So to give a really brief overview, the registry is basically our whitelist of community-approved newsrooms that have publishing rights on Civil. There's a whole process of how they apply to be on the registry, which is another separate product in and of itself. But basically, they'll be able to apply through a WordPress blockchain plugin that we're also building in parallel to this product. So this will exist on our website, and this is the first page that people come through and to see. There are 3 different categories of newsrooms here, but these are the approved newsrooms that we're launching with, and there are about 15 newsrooms that we have currently with us, and about 100+ journalists altogether. But these are newsrooms that have been vetted by us, so they will go through the application process and will end up here at launch. But to take you through the process of how a newsroom could be applied as a new application, there's a whole process in which they have to, actually, let me show you a really high level. Oh no, crap. I don't know why that didn't show up well. Sorry about that. Oh man, okay, never mind. Apologies. I'll just go back to my normal flow. But let's say a newsroom came on board as a new applicator, and they have about 14 days for the community to vet them. And they will end up here. The community, the Civil token holder community, get a chance to research them, read what they have published, look through their journalism profile, and then you can click through to view a more detailed view of each of the newsrooms. This is a detailed listing page for each of our newsroom. Their mission statement, these will be part of, all the content here will be part of their application, and they have to answer these questions as well as give a profile of all of their team, a roster. So this is essentially the newsroom's charter, their mission, their business models, there are, if there are any additional information that the community has to know before they start, they can put all of that information here. And the community will have 14 days to vet them. If there are no challenges, if there are no issues, then they will be automatically approved. The discussion section is actually one of the core feature as we learn through our user research, because this is where people are going to just really learn about the newsroom. This is where the community get to chat and perhaps elevate some issues that they see in the wild. For example, this newsroom is a sleep reporter's newsroom, supposedly reporting on what make a difference between a quality beauty sleep and a restless night. And then there are people in the community who have found that they, perhaps gotten paid by a mattress company to write about it. And so there are some discussions here regarding whether they should trust this newsroom. And if they don't, they can challenge this newsroom, and they go through this process of staking the same amount of deposit of civil tokens to the pot. So it's just whatever this number is, it may change depending on what the community can set it at, but the amount of deposit that a challenger will stake will be equals to the deposit that the newsroom stake when they apply to be on this registry. And to do so, they have to state their reasons and also cite any constitutional principles that this newsroom have failed to comply. Civil has a constitution, which is basically a set of rules on how to conduct yourself as an ethical newsroom. And people can cite specific things within, or rules that within the constitution here that the newsroom break. Oops. Dang it. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so they have to fill out this form and then automatically deposit the amount of tokens that equals to the deposit in the pot. And they go through the MetaMask situation. They have to sign again, and then they have to confirm their contract. And this is when the newsroom is officially under challenge, and that the application is now open to accepting votes from the civil holder community. There's a lot of language and messages here that we're working through because there's a lot of things going on. So we're trying to give people a heads up of like, well, now we're entering the voting process. The voting process has 2 phases. The first phase is the commit your secret vote within 10 days. And that is to conceal and prevent any of the decision bias until your votes are confirmed. And then you have the next 7 days to come back and confirm your votes. And then that will bring people, or that will bring the newsroom listing to this being under challenge phase. And then the challenger statement will live within the discussion area so that the community have time to read it, comment on it, and have a chance for the newsroom to respond. And so this discussion area, which we have eventually will make our own product, will be called a discourse, civil discourse. But for now, I think we're just using Corel Talk, which is another product that the journalism industry has been used to using and trust a lot. So we're going to start there. But now we're under the challenge phase, which has 2 mini phases within it. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the commit vote real quick. How am I doing on time? Okay.
About 3 minutes left, maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we're okay. To commit a vote, you basically have to make sure that you're voting in accordance with the civil constitution. We're trying very hard to give people guidelines and as much information as they can throughout their voting process. But we're gonna continue to test this because I'm not really sure if this is enough. But essentially, people get to vote whether this newsroom should be accepted or rejected from the civil registry. Let's say we voted to remove or reject this newsroom, then you have to stake tokens. And the tokens are weighted, which means they are 1 vote equals to 1 token. And you can vote for as many tokens as you want. And when you review your vote, this is your confirmation information, so that when you come back to confirm your vote later on, you will use the same information. And there's no way for us right now to really save this or help people save their secret phrase. So we are giving people as much direction and help as possible. We are adding this feature that allow people to add this whole information to their calendar so that they can be alerted when the voting period or submitting voting period is over, and then they can come back and confirm their vote. And we also recommend some of the other ways to save their salt, which is to write it down, to print it out, and to email it to themselves. But essentially, this is one of our biggest UX problem currently, is the fact that people don't understand why they have to come back and reveal their vote. And then it feels like they're voting a second time. And then, there's a lot of questions about like, well, what if I get too busy and I forget? Are my votes going to get counted? So there's a lot of issues we're having with this, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible currently at launch for people. And then once they review their votes, they go through the MetaMask flow again in order to stake their voting tokens, however much they wanted to use to vote. And I'm just going to go through this process real quick. And basically, after the voting process ends, you start to go through the confirmation vote, and it basically goes through the same process again. So I'm going to stop there and see if you have any questions. I'm really sorry. That was a lot, but I'm trying to go fast.
That was super interesting. Thanks. Maybe I'll start off with one. So I think this was adding folks to a token curated registry. What's the process? Let's say like someone is good at the start, but then they start like putting out crap. What's the process for them being removed?
That is exactly what I just went through, is the fact that you can challenge the newsroom. The application process is actually separate, which is the process of the newsroom themselves have to install a CMS. So they have to stand up their own newsroom already. They can publish if they want to, but their work won't be, as credible because it's not a civil newsroom. But they have to set all of that up and install our WordPress plugin before they can get here. So that application process is separate. And we have like a whole different demo for that too that I can do next week if you want.
So following up on Mitch's question, challenging. I imagine that challenges, so is there, what constitutes a legitimate challenge, right? So I'm a user, how many tokens do I have to stake before my challenge is pushed out for everybody to vote on?
You have to have the same amount of token deposit as the newsroom. So currently it's 1,000 civil tokens. Mm-hmm. So that amount is the same amount as the newsroom's deposit when they apply. So part of the application process for the newsroom is that they also have to stake 1,000 civil tokens. And so to challenge the newsroom, you as a civil holder community have to also stake the same amount. And that amount can change because that's part of what the community agrees on. But we're going to start with like 1,000. So to make this legit, they have to provide evidence on why and reasons why they want to challenge. And they have to specifically cite what constitutional rules that this newsroom had failed to comply, or like whatever it is, to make their case as legit as possible so that the community have enough information to vote for or against.
Will civil, I imagine one of the issues I guess I see is that I imagine challenging a newsroom will require, I'm guessing most users are not going to want to carry the weight of challenging the newsroom themselves. So they would probably want to band together to split up the cost of staking that challenge amongst a number of different user wallets. Is that something that that will happen on that platform, or will users have to get together outside of Civil to put their tokens together?
For at launch, they will have to do that because we won't have that feature as part of this. But we do have, basically at launch, all of this will be open source. All our protocol will be completely open, and we are inviting developers, the community, to help us build that tool.
Okay.
Because that will be immensely useful. But I think for launch, that's what we'll ask people to do, is that you could do this, but we don't have a tool for it yet.
Right. We'll so some sort of like multi-sig for people to band together and stake. Okay. Interesting.
Exactly.
Just to clarify, who are the users who would be, say, the challenges of these stories? Like, and how have you discovered like the incentive to, like, why would they have you, like, how have you, I guess, discovered why they would do so potentially?
We have, so the type of users that we are targeting at launch are people who are very passionate about ethical journalism, and what we call like journalism wonks, who are have very good deep knowledge about why the state of journalism is the way it is right now and want to do something about it. So those are the people that we're targeting, and those are not necessarily people who understand cryptography or have cryptocurrency of any kind, but they care enough to want to learn about it. How we're reaching them right now is by our newsrooms, basically, because we have about 15 newsrooms right now, and we have so many more in the pipes. Each of those newsrooms have their own readership, and when they come on board and they talk about Civil and why they want to be a part of Civil, they also bring their own audiences onto the Civil platform. And so the reason why anybody Civil who probably care enough to buy Civil tokens are probably people who want to support their own newsrooms. And these are newsrooms that are mostly either investigative journalism, local newsrooms. So they are very local to certain places around the world, mostly in the US right now, but we're branching out to Asia and across the world. So those are small pockets that we're targeting right now. And most successfully currently is Zigzag podcast. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they are by far the biggest funnel for us right now in terms of getting users to come on board and user test with us and asking very hard questions and holding us accountable for all of these things that we're making decisions for. So I hope that answers your question.
I wanted to, I know, hey Mitch, what's our timing like on
about 5 minutes left for Q&A.
Yeah, I have a question too.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Beltran. I already asked.
No, please finish it.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I know you've done you've done a lot of testing, user testing, and I wanted to see if you could talk about, maybe just pick what you think is maybe the most unexpected or counterintuitive or interesting thing that came out of your testing and how that affected what we saw in the demo.
Good question. I think the most common unexpected surprise was I used the word token weighted for my little module, like you're invited to vote, enter your amount to vote. Your votes are token weighted. The word token weighted, surprisingly, almost everybody stopped and they're like, what does that mean? And I have to say, it means one vote equals one tokens. And everybody was like, so does that mean that if I have more tokens than, like if I have 100,000 more tokens than the other person, that means I have 100,000 more voting power than that person? How is that democratic? Why is it that way? Like people get emotionally charged because it feels very real life right now and how the powerful is winning at everything. And so we realized that we have to go back and rework that messaging because rationally, the way, because it is written in the, because it was designed in the system, it was meant, or the intention is that the people who have the most stake in this platform, or the care the most, of course, are the people, because we are fighting for ethical journalism. The people who are going to be on this platform will have the most skin in the game. Those are going to be the people who want to protect this list, right? This idea or this ideal. So that is the reason behind it. But I realized that some of our messaging has not been very successful in communicating that. And so we have to go back and, like, I think doing a series of blog posts answering all of these questions that are very, very good philosophical questions, and start to address them from like all different angles. And I think the token weighted word was was my biggest surprise.
Yeah, so very good. I had the same question, so each of you had answered. And I feel you with the reveal problem. We at Ethereum Name Service have exactly the same problem, how you explained. And maybe we can have a panel at DevCon about voting language or mechanisms possibly for that. But this is for later. I wanted to ask you a question about trolls. Like, if they, do users get, besides getting slashed if the community votes against them, do they get a reputation by themselves, or can a malicious newsroom be supported by a very wealthy troll-heavy community?
I mean, I think anything is possible. So that question runs into like so many things in terms of like everything from token distributed strategies that we have to like hiring a moderator to help with the community engagement. Yes, identity, like so many things, so many products that we could build on top of this to help alleviate a lot of trolling problems, because we will be able to tie or not tie everything back to a certain transaction or identity. But identity is definitely one of, I saw you, Johnny. Identity is definitely one of the biggest questions that we are trying to solve in our next set of, like, in our next roadmap. So that will be very exciting. But at launch, anyway, in the next, couple of months, I think having a community moderator will probably be a big thing for us. And that wasn't something that we necessarily thought of. Like, we know we need a discussion section because we want people to have discussions about this. But even through user testing, it was the biggest feature that people use on here before they even contemplate voting or challenging or doing anything with their tokens. They wanted to chat. They wanted to know about the newsroom. They want to ask questions before any of that happens. And so I think having a moderator will probably be a huge part of our of this platform. which means possibly that newsrooms will have to create a new job for this role.
So one last thing, I actually was watching, and I think I have some I guess feedback. One thing to me is like, I know that there's an economic incentive for people who believe that they can guess in the right or vote in the right way, which is they believe, they're confident that a given newsroom, they're confident that they believe other people will agree with them if they say that this newsroom adheres to the civil constitution, right? Like that is this kind of weird question, but that's kind of what they're voting on, right? There's an economic incentive, right, to vote the right way. So I think that would be maybe something I'd like to see played up more is when I cast my vote, the economic incentive, the return that I am liable to get increases, I think, right, as I cast stake more, right? So yeah, I think that part could be take a higher place in the hierarchy, since that is ultimately what is driving to want to participate. Like I want to keep making sure I'm on time for my votes, and I do all of these things because I am missing out on opportunities to make money. And I am able to, and the whole idea is that I'm able to leverage my knowledge of news and just news culture and what makes good newsrooms, right? Mm-hmm. And somebody who doesn't know anything about news, give them all the tokens in the world, but they'll probably vote the wrong way, right? More than I will, right? Like that's, I think, kind of the idea. So I think, that playing up that economic incentive of how much return they can expect and stuff like that, I think could be valuable. So, because I think it sometimes gets lost of what is the driver behind the voters, like, why are they sitting around and coming and checking on this and seeing what to vote on, right? They're doing it because they're trying to make money.
Yeah, I think I should make the reward pool a little bit more high level, and explaining. There's another question that people have a lot is like, where does the reward pool come from? Because voters don't get punished for participating, so they actually don't lose their tokens. Even if they lose, they don't lose their tokens. They can only gain tokens by voting for the winning side. So you're asking, where does the reward pool come from? The reward pool comes from the challenger, the deposit from either the challenger or the newsroom, depending on who wins or loses.
So,
and this will have to be the last because we have to move on for this.
Okay, yeah. No, I'll talk to you offline. This gets less into UX and more into the technical specs of y'all's TCR, so we can.
Yes. There is a lot more. I'm only showing you a third of it. The process goes on because there are lots of checks and balances. But
cool, excellent. Well, everyone, please thank Nue for the very nice presentation.
Thank you, guys.
And so I think the next topic was a quick round of more discussions about design at DevCon, some talk about design activities. So that closes up in a couple days. So I think that people can still get the proposals. And Peter, I think you had some thoughts on this. If you would like to kick it off.
Not quite. I'm just looking to see how we can fill a room at both of these with different things that will benefit the whole community. And I'm just like kind of keeping my ears out for some cool ideas and looking to help organize it as well.
Cool. Well, I guess we can open it to the floor then at large.
I feel that after New Way's presentation, that maybe there's space for design of TCRs for many reasons, not only on the interface, on the language, on how do you explain. And I would add also on the crypto economic incentives, because there's a whole chapter in there. And I think maybe we can propose also, I don't know how many other projects actually have this commit and reveal period pattern that ENS is one, you are one. We probably can find other people that need to have voting with commit and reveal mechanisms. And that is a panel, I think, or a workshop to share ideas.
Yes, please.
So I think Laura, who's not on this, I think she's watching right now, but she's gonna. I think one of her proposals is a booth loungy thing that can be this breakout room for these discussions around some of this stuff. So hopefully that'll be a good place to really get into the weeds on all this. Because I was going to say as well, I was going to follow up on it. I do think that what we're running into as designers, and I'd like to see talks of at DevCon, and maybe I'm biased because it's just something that I'm curious about, but is this future of this game theory stuff, these economic incentives, these are human problems. This is like trying to figure out what people care about, right? And how to align the different things that different parties care about in a way that makes this system work virtuously, and feed back into each other. So yeah, I think that's just typically been the domain of economics and other sociology and other things. But as designers who spend a lot of time trying to understand what users need and want, and what their values are, I think that there's a place for us to approach that maybe in an interesting way. So yeah, and TCRs is one of those things, like trying to figure out what do they care about. Do they care about news? Do they care about making money? Do they care about some, they obviously care about some combination of it. Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah.
TCR, yeah.
Great point. Yeah, it's like you can go super deep into that, and it's kind of like a niche thing that you kind of have to really go down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And like it could definitely add a lot of value. I'd like to, first off, really, I mean, more logistically speaking, if we're going to plan for these events, we should really first understand what are we working with? What is our limitation? Because, for example, at least for DevCon and Web3 Summit, there have been talks of how we have a hackerspace, or I'm not sure what we exactly have. Because collecting talks themselves, is this going to be a part of the main, like, what we're planning? Is this going to be part of the main DevCon thing, or is this kind of like a side thing? I was hoping if Beltran could shed more light into this.
Yeah, so there are three main formats. The main idea of DevCon is that it doesn't want to be just talks, okay? Like the previous DevCons that you've seen. It wants to be more participatory, hands-on, and fun, okay? So this is the basic idea, and there are three main formats. Of course, talks or presentations, and workshops, where ideally in 1 or 2 hours, you're sharing something you learn and you're teaching something. But there's a margin to move around the format in there. And there's this new idea of breakout rooms, where you basically have a room for you or for a bunch of people, and you decide what happens in there. It's very open. Many of these things that we are talking can happen in these breakout rooms. And I think we just need to propose many of these ideas. And if there is an overlap, we probably are going to gather around. They're going to say, hey, you propose more or less the same thing. Gather around in a breakout room and do it, and do it together. And so it's an open new way of doing a conference. What I think is interesting to think about is that it normally is a developer conference, okay, DevCon. But this year, there's going to be also a lot of designers, and how do we designers talk to developers, or what do we designers need to talk between each other? And so there's a lot of ideas that could happen in there. I don't know if this helped you answer your question. And Johnny can add a few because he's been on these conversations as well.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. I think that's. I would add that, one of the things that I think DevCon is also looking for, and maybe I zoned out, I was chatting with somebody, so I might have missed it, Beltran, but is this type of content where we have a good mix of designers collaborating on best practices and also designers telling developers kind of what they do and the role we play and the problems we can solve and how we can work with them better. So those are the two different big buckets, I think, of the type of content we're looking to facilitate. I imagine that with it being the first year at DevCon that has a designer focus, that'll probably be mostly designers talking about to developers about things. And then hopefully as the years go on, there's this whole internal design conversation that can happen. But, you know, we'll see how it goes.
I think the TCR, that might lend itself well to a breakout room, because I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of different thoughts on that. New Way with their team at Civil, I imagine that the people that lose when they vote, they don't give up their tokens. There are some models where they do get slashed, but there's a trade-off for that, right? Where you want people to be voting correctly, but you also want to encourage people to vote. And so it's a very interesting design trade-off that I think could lend itself well to a breakout room.
Yes, because then you talk about the trade-offs and what are some of the checks and balances you put in there. I do have like a TCR workshop proposal together that I'm gathering feedback from. So I'm happy to send it out to you all and get your feedback on it as well. But it was something that we did at Ethereal and it went over really well. But now I want to incorporate some of our design research that we've learned since then. And that commit and reveal period, I mean, I would love some brainstorming around that too.
So
especially if you have developers around.
Building on that, I think that there is, this idea for, I think it would be a good breakout room in that. So in similar vein to what Nue did, I've also ran a few times, and Eric Morrow at Consensus as well, and some others that have also helped have run this blockchain role-playing game, which isn't specifically around TCRs, but is more around how different people behave when they're trying to game the system, and to try and like make people understand the game theory in like groups of 5. And, you know, you can model kind of what it's like to do proof of work and proof of stake in these systems. And so there's like this role playing aspect there. And then you could also do the same type of thing, it sounds like, with TCRs is another concept to explore through this role-playing thing. I also, you know, I don't know if anybody's read any of the recent stuff on these harbinger taxes that like Vitalik was talking about and Simon de la Riviere was talking about. And it's another kind of weird little crypto or game theory thing that was like, maybe that's also a good candidate to see how people value their stuff with and tax their own stuff when the economic incentives are aligned in a certain way. And that's something you can model in person, right? So I think that there's like a whole little, maybe there just needs to be a room where, like, you know, maybe on each day we explore a different thing through role playing or something like that.
Yes.
And I think Laura was she was saying, so with a breakout room, so the difference between like the workshop and the breakout rooms is that the breakout rooms are like these smaller rooms that may change on on each day. So it might turn into like a developer's track or whatever every time, versus I think a workshop is like 2 hours. And so I think keeping in mind like what we could accomplish in what, so we could kind of like group and present that. And I also wanted to talk about the design audit. I think a lot of what I've been thinking about is how designers and developers interact, not necessarily like designers telling people, but just being like, okay, how do we solve a problem together? And so like one of the ones that I submitted, I think, are just, sorry, it's loud in here, is like a quick skill trade, which is like a deck of cards, and each developer and designer kind of paired together, and then they from the deck of cards is like a terminology. And so just like first sussing out like the language, like how do you guys define something in your world, and then how do you and then like recording that and keeping that as also documentation. I don't know if you, Beltran and Johnny, if you guys have more details on like I guess what support you have. So like if we were like, this is really great for documentation, like would we have to bring filming? Is there support for that? There's, you know.
I don't know that any of that is worked out yet. Probably won't be until we decide exactly what the pieces of content are going to be. But I think the design audit stuff is pretty in the bag. I think people are pretty aligned on that. And yeah, we should probably for those audits have a setup space that has the materials and the equipment that we would need to really do a nice audit, which it might be, you know, cameras and ability to do screen sharing and things like that. So yeah, I imagine that will be something we need to get to.
Just a quick question on the design audits. How do you expect to get these projects to participate in these audits? Is there a process for these people to kind of like attract them in a way? Because I think it's a hard sell for people who are going there for a developer conference to take out time for design audits. So it's like, what's the strategy behind getting people in these rooms?
Yeah, I think that's a service design problem all on its own. I think that we're going to have to figure out. I don't know that we've talked about those details yet about how do we incentivize projects to participate. Obviously, there is some hope that projects will take this voluntarily, this opportunity to get UX feedback if they're on small teams with ideas that don't have any UX designers working on them. This is, you know, free value. But for more, you know, further along teams, yeah, I don't know. There's hopefully going to just be some amount of recruitment of, you know, personal people that know other teams and trying to get them involved. But yeah, I think we're open to any ideas on how to market this service that will be running inside of DevCon. Yeah.
Caroline had an idea from the chat. Caroline, if you'd like to speak to that.
Sure. I was just thinking, I know that there are several hackathon events running before DevCon. That could be a place to talk to people, you know, because I'm sure they'll have various stages of projects.
Yeah, I was actually also, oh, go ahead, Beltran.
No, ladies first.
I was actually talking to a couple people about some of the projects they're working on. And I said, you know, it'd be great. Like we want to do a design audit. And so these, I did see that there is expressed interest in a design audit, especially if you're going to have like all these design minds, like this is a great time. I think it's more the organizational side of it. So perhaps if we have a workshop, we put it in as a workshop for those 2 hours. It's kind of like you sign up for a slot. So maybe we go on the second day or something like that. So the first day, like everyone make sure you sign up if you're interested, and we kind of do them in groups. And then how we can do like the third day or whatever varies. But I think it's more so if we just say, hey, you have to sign up before, people will most likely sign up. I think it's just making sure that they know to sign up or that it's happening, which sounds like there is a demand from people I've spoken to.
Yeah, I think signups is going to be important to ensure a minimum. And I see audits as that it should be an interesting learning experience for both the developer and for the designer. So we should structure in such a way that we both get out something, not the designers are giving for free some time work. So maybe the audit says we bring in projects and developers who are bringing their site or their project, or between us, designer, hey, I show you this. And we have a moment where we, maybe 2 or 3 different designers ideally from different projects, we gather around and we have we take the same audit, or 1 or 2 different designers. And at the end of this phase, we have a second phase where we share insights. Hey, this was an important learning from us designer. You know, I learned this was a bad solution, or this was a good solution. And we try there to exchange some ideas. This is a first idea, but the main concept is let's have a learning experience for both, for the developer, the dApp creator, and for us designers to create patterns. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, actually, we're going to have Laura, who I think just joined us. And if I can figure out how to do Zoom, she might have some thoughts on this.
Hi, hello. Sorry, I was just going to watch, and then I realized that the DevCon submission's coming up, so we might want to talk about that. Hey, so I've been listening this whole time, and a couple things. Consensus is pretty large, so we're going to be about 14 to 15 designers deep, and all of us are aware of the plan of the UX audits, and I want to lead that effort of having people sign up. I was thinking of just using the email list from the open source group to recruit designers to sign up in advance, maybe create a link that we can include in the program for DEF CON for dApps to sign up. We can put it on Twitter beforehand. We can really take care of the flow of these audits way before we get there. I think that could be really easy to take care of, and I'm volunteering to do that because I am writing the proposal for this breakout room, and I think that there's so many good opportunities there, like you mentioned, Amy, about the skill trade, role-playing, the TCR breakouts. I think that there's going to be so many submissions this year for lightning talks, and if they don't all make it, I think this is the place to have those conversations because they should be had anyways. And from just the understanding that I have from a lot of developers, they're all really excited about this. Everyone's really excited about it. And another thing from what we spoke earlier, I have been talking to Envision about partnering up for this party that we wanted to throw, this design party. So I'm really, really excited now. I just wanted to put a shout out there. If any of you want to help plan that, if you have time, party planning skills, resources, you just like to party, message me. I'd love to have your help. I also love to party.
I love to party too. I will help Laura.
One question about the audits, though. You said you're going to be 14, 15 designers, and so you're going to offer, or is that, can we participate? Can we learn something from that?
Well, so what I'm saying is this is everybody, but as far as like there being enough people to volunteer to, handle the breakout room, to do the audits, we're just saying that we're also bringing a lot of designers, but the designers at Consensus, we've all talked about this, and we're not coming as Consensus, we're coming as designers for the Web3 community because Consensus will already be there. They'll have their booth, there's plenty of opportunities for them to do whatever it is that they're doing, but we're not there for that. Like, our purpose is design. Our purpose is to advance design in the community, and we just want to collaborate with everybody. Like we mentioned, the booth and the breakout room would be brand agnostic. Like, it's not going to be blue, it spirals everywhere. It's going to be about design for designers. So it's.
And what's the format? What's the format you have in mind for the audits then? We were discussing a bit about the audits,
okay,
and the idea that we could all have some learnings, and it's not just designers offering an audit to dApp. What is the format you have in mind?
Well, I was thinking just for the audits, first of all, like as the designers sign up and the developers sign up, like we would pair designers of different strengths, different places together. There would be 2 designers per dApp. We initially said 30 minutes, but I think 30 minutes is just kind of like when you start to get to the meat of things. That's just my opinion. I think like an hour would maybe be useful. I think that as a group, this community could come up with, one standard audit format that we would all follow and apply, something that we all agree on. And that's something that the dApp could walk away with, like this is like your score, so to speak. If we wanted to throw up a page about, that format and like how to change that about your dApp, like, we could put designers up there and be like, contact this designer, or, ask questions to the community and we'll answer them through these calls. So that's just what I've thought of so far for the UX audits. as far as like who would pair up with who. I was just, I don't know everybody. I was just gonna put people together. So
have people sign up.
Yeah, I just, I didn't think about like an intricate system or anything. So if anybody has any opinions on that, let me know.
Beltran, you were talking about trading services with developers. Is that what you're getting at?
No. The idea that normally, like Akil was mentioning, how do you sign up people? How do you, is people going to volunteer their free time for auditing the project for another? And so the incentive for designers, I think, should be in there as well, that we bring out some learning. I don't know. What did you want to add to that?
There's another aspect to this that I had thought. You guys might know Bounties Network. Perhaps I talk about it enough, but I was thinking of also putting up some design bounties and incentivizing people with money, because everybody likes money, but also having the ability for dApps to maybe do a design bounty and be able to go to the breakout room and go to like where the designer lounge is and be like, hey, I need help with this. And then you complete it and you can give each other ETH or whatever. Or we could put the completion of a UX audit as a bounty, and everyone that signs up gets to complete that bounty. You have to like prove it by when you're done with it, you take a picture of like the team that came together. So we can definitely perhaps create an incentive for designers. It might not be a skill, but it would definitely be like an interaction with the dApp and some money.
I think this is super interesting, compelling. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to use this room in a minute or two, but I think we can continue the conversation on Telegram and possibly capture that, encapsulate some of the ideas in Conflux, or just letting people know when they do their design applications with DevCon. So I'll just open the floor if anyone has any last thoughts, and then I'm going to have to close the room.
Yes, the last thing is the call for participation to DevCon closes this Sunday. So you have like 2 days to put up your proposal. Even if you have a half-baked idea, we can talk it after. And think also that there are 5 or 6 different tracks. There's scalability, security, privacy, developer experience, UX and design, society and systems. And where can designers fit in these conversations so that we spread design all over the place, in the other people's conversation?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't siloed to just the UX and design stream. So just ensuring that we're participating, and maybe even in the process of planning these activities, it'd be good to get an idea of what the other talks and plans for the other events are, so we can see scheduling wise how it works out, so we're not kind of working against the wall. So perhaps instead of just working siloed as far as like a design community, perhaps we can get the Ethereum Foundation to kind of give us some more insight into what programming they have planned for the rest of the event, and then we can go accordingly.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm helping along with the developer experience track. And yeah, designing for developer experience is a very interesting thing in itself. I think we've seen some interesting proposals kind of related to that as well. But I think
once we find out what talks are selected, we can help curate a schedule around that in the breakout rooms as well.
Yeah, I think the main idea, one of the big ideas is once, like you say, like all the different tracks are selecting, and they're kind of like crosstalk and saying, who can mix whose peanut butter with whose jelly.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. This was Open Source Web3 Design number 4 live stream. We'll be up in a couple weeks, and hope to see you then.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.